Hey, what is going on, guys? Today I'm excited to be checking out a product. It's been out on the market for a little while, but it's the Sony BRAVIA Theater Quad. So this is the HT-A9M2. There was a previous version to this. They were the small cylindrical. These are now flat and thin, but I'm excited to check these out. There's been a lot of hype on the internet. Honestly, in the past, I haven't been super excited about wireless speakers. Typically, they just stink. They don't sound good. They're not very good quality, but I've heard great things about this, so I'm going to check this out. We'll get it unboxed, show you what's inside, and there's also the matching subwoofer. So this is the SW5. It's the largest one, I believe, that they carry. So let's go ahead and start with the Theater Quad. One thing I noticed already is this is a pretty heavy box. The shipping weight on this is about 30 pounds, so that's pretty significant. So here we've got our 4 speakers. We'll get those unboxed. So right in the middle we have our setup and configuration. You can see we're going to connect a control box to the TV on the ARC or eARC connection. We'll give it power by plugging it into the wall. There's a BRAVIA Connect app, and then we'll do the setup. So let's start down here. So we've got some hardware. So these are going to be our mounting brackets for the wall. You can see the picture here. I'm not going to be installing it to the wall, but I am just curious to see the build quality on these. Go ahead and slide those out. Just take a look at one of these brackets. So these are really nice, actually really thick metal. So these would screw on the wall and then attach to the bottom, and you secure those probably with these. Yep. So there's a couple screws in here, but again, we're not going to be mounting those to the wall. Then underneath there's another set right there. So we'll just go ahead and slide those off to the side. Let's see what we have in here. So they include an HDMI cable. Got all our paperwork, which I don't ever read. A couple batteries right here, probably for the remote. We've got a stereo 3.5 millimeter cable. Got a remote here, input, power, sound field, voice, volume. You can increase the bass. Interesting, so I like that. Got a night mode and then a mute. Let's lay that off to the side. And then inside here, got some more instructions. So there's some instructions here, so we'll lay that there just for a second. Take a look at this control box here. So got a large IR sensor here. Got some cooling vents over here. On the back, we've got the power, Ethernet, our ARC connection, another HDMI, power. And then right up here, you can see this center out, S center out. So that is going to be a sync cable. So we'll use this to plug into here, and then plug this into the back of the BRAVIA 9 85-inch that I've got in the living room. And then down at the bottom, we just have our power brick. We'll take a look at one of these speakers. Again, these have got some nice heft to them, so I like that. Inside each speaker, I believe there's 4 speakers. So there's an up-firing driver. Let's see, up here. And then inside, we've got a tweeter, a mid-range, and a small woofer here. And down on the bottom, we've got a port for our power, and then our screws right here, which we'll attach the bass to. Then beneath here, we've got all our hardware for each speaker. I like the feel of that. It's quite nice. So we'll screw those into the bottom. Got our power cord. Little brackets there. And then couple of screws. So let's get our screwdriver and we'll get this assembled. Assembling the base is pretty simple. We've got these 2 little pieces here. You can see there's 2 little prongs. That's just going to snap right into those little holes right there. Do the same thing on the other side. Turn it upside down. Grab our 2 screws and tighten them down. Just like that. And there we go. Now that we've got the 4 speakers assembled, let's go ahead and get the subwoofer unboxed. All right, so first thing we see is it says don't cut these straps that are on the inside of this. So there's 2 little blue straps here. First, let me pull out any hardware. We've got the power cable. We've got some instructions, and that's it. Then we're just gonna lift up this whole piece and lay this off to the side. All right, let's go ahead and take this off. So this is a pretty stout subwoofer. It's actually quite heavy, pretty compact. Okay, let's take a look here. So on the front side, we got a speaker grill. Let's see if that comes off. So that is not removable. Got a large port down here. On the side, we've got the Sony logo. Then on the back, we've got the power as well as our link. And then down at the bottom, we have our power port. And you can see this down here is completely hollow. So the sound radiates from the driver down here, the woofer, and then that radiates through kind of like a port, but I guess it's really not a port, it's more of a vent. And the sides and top have a textured finish. So let's head on into the living room and I'll show you the space that we've got to work with. So as you can see, first of all, this is a pretty open concept room. Got really large ceilings. These are 12 foot. So I've already placed each speaker in the room. We'll take a look at the front and then we'll work our way to the back. So I've got some speaker stands here, just to the left and right of my console. And then down to the far left, over here in the corner, I placed a subwoofer. What I'm wanting to do is, because this is such a large room, I placed it in the corner so we can get some additional boundary gain, hopefully to get a little bit more bottom end out of it. The only cable you're gonna need is the power cable. What I wanted to make sure to do is place each speaker to the very front edge of the entertainment center. You don't want some early reflections hitting the edge of your entertainment center and bouncing off. Now, if I come back here, you can see I've got the other two speakers. One thing that's nice about this system that I've heard is it's really flexible on your placement. And so you can see my couch is right here, and I've just placed this over here on this countertop because I don't want to place a speaker stand here. And plus my speaker stands are actually a little bit too short. So you can see these are only a couple of feet. If I were to place that on the ground, it's going to take the speaker and it's going to be firing in the back of this couch, and I really don't want that. So again, this is just a temporary setup. I want to hear what it sounds like. Not really concerned about aesthetics right now. So if we take a look at the bottom of this, the only thing you've got to do is hook up your power right here. We've got a link button right here. So we'll take a look at that in just a little bit. The other thing I want you to notice is on every speaker, you'll see they're labeled. So make sure that you've got these in the correct location: left rear, front left, and front right. Then the other thing I'll just show you is on the rear, there's this little door right here. So we can open that up. So if you were to mount these on the wall, that's what you would mount it to. So you'd take that screw out and then secure the mounts to that, which that's included in the packaging. So now we're going to connect the control box to the TV and all of our components. So this HDMI cable here is connected to the BRAVIA 9 going to the eARC connection. We're going to plug that in here. The second HDMI cable is going to my Apple TV 4K. So we're going to plug that into the HDMI input here. We've got our power cable here that'll plug in right there. And then we also want to connect the center connect. So this is going to plug in right here. And then on the back of the TV, we'll connect the other end to that. Right here is where our LAN will get connected, so we can get Ethernet to this, and then our main power button here. So let's go ahead and get all this connected. So we got power, Apple TV 4K, that's going to the TV itself. We got the center channel. So here on the back of the BRAVIA 9, you can see the center sync connection, which is going to be right there. So we'll just go ahead and plug that in, just like that. Then on the front of the unit, it says, please wait once you start powering it up. We see that the device is already connected. So once it finishes, we can now see that we've got a green light on the speakers instead of a red light. So since we have a BRAVIA 9, the first thing we're going to do is go into the settings. You can either scroll all the way over here or hit the settings button on the remote. Then we're going to come down to picture and sound. And then we're going to go down to audio output. So typically I have an AVR connected to this. So the first thing I'm going to do is change this from audio system to TV speakers, because we're going to use the internal BRAVIA 9 speaker as the center channel. From here, we're going to come down and hit Audio System Settings, and we're going to turn on Acoustic Center Sync. So we'll go back out to our main settings, then we'll click back again. I'm just going to go into the All Settings right here, Channels and Inputs, come down to External Inputs. I'm going to click on External Device Setup and click Setup. We're going to click Next. So now we're going to go into the Sony BRAVIA Connect app. If you haven't downloaded it, you can download it from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. So once we're in here, I'm going to click back at the top left, and we're going to come down here to Add Device. So now we can connect to the Theater Quad. It's going to download some software here. And now we're going to move physically closer to the control box. Control box is flashing. I'll click the indicator is blinking and start pairing. And we're going to click pair. We're going to click next. It's checking the HDMI connections. Click next. So we are going to use the center channel. I want to see how that works. I'm going to play the test down. We did hear the sound. And we'll click next. So now it's going to connect wirelessly to the network. So now it's going to register the device to my account. And everything's connected, so we'll click next. So we'll agree to whatever we're agreeing to. So we don't need to assemble anything. This just shows you a diagram of how to connect all your speakers. Our speakers are already connected and assembled. And I'll just say they're attached to all 4 speakers. So you want to make sure that each speaker is facing you. You definitely don't want a speaker firing the opposite direction. Click next. It's just reminding you to make sure that they're facing flat, not turned sideways. We'll click OK. It verified that all 4 speakers are connected. So we do have a subwoofer. It's the SW5, so we'll click that. We've already connected it, and it's already installed. It found the subwoofer, so we'll click next. So my distance is right about 10 feet, so I'm going to select the 10 feet or further. We'll click next. So we've got a software update, so we'll go ahead and click update. So far the app makes it really easy to install. Everything seems pretty self-explanatory. And while that's installing, you should see update flash on the control box. All right, we'll click OK. So I'm in this position. So we'll click next, start the measurement. So it's measured all the speakers, click next. We're going to allow access to my microphone. All right, it's wanting me to remove my case. Let's go ahead and take my case off. So it's asking me to turn it vertically, like that. Click next, because basically it wants the microphone being at the top. I didn't realize how dirty that was. We'll click next. So it wants me to point the microphone at the TV. So it's measured the front speakers. So now it's probably going to want me to aim it maybe up and find out. Look at there, pretty good. So we're going to point this up. Even said great work. Guess we did something right. All right, let's play back a sound demo. All right. Very cool little demo there. Give the device a name. I'm just going to call it Theater Quad. Click Next. And there we go. So we've got the BRAVIA 9 paired up with the BRAVIA Theater Quad and the SA SW5 subwoofer. So we'll click Done. So now we can control the quad system, everything about it, with the app itself. So we'll probably take a deeper dive in a future video on this as I spend some time and get used to it. But you can see we've got some sound field information. We've got a night mode. We've got voice zoom, which could enhance the dialogue and increase that. We can adjust the rear levels, different things here. We can increase the bass over here, which I'll probably do. We're gonna test out that little subwoofer and see what it's got. So everything can be adjusted directly from the app itself. So over the past few weeks, we've lived with the BRAVIA Theater Quad in my living room setup. We've watched a lot of content together as a family, listened to quite a bit of music. And so the rest of this video, I just want to share my experience and my thoughts using this system. The first thing I want to talk about is the aesthetics. I really like where Sony's going with this because they've made it so simple and so sleek. This is going to fit in a lot of living room setups. I like even how Sony did not choose to put their logo right on the front. So when you mount this on the wall, or if it's just sitting on some speaker stands, it's not going to be intrusive at all. They've got their logo right on the top up here, but it's just super thin. I mean, we're only talking a couple inches thick, probably about 8 or 9 inches wide. Now these are pretty heavy for a small speaker like this. They've actually got some stout to them. And again, if you do not use this mount right here for like a speaker stand, and you mount those directly on the wall, it's going to really, really make that just a super clean setup. So I really like the design. I like the style of this. You are going to be limited to just one color. So if you're needing white or if you're wanting black, you just can't get that. So your only option is the gray, but I think it's just a great neutral color and going to fit with a lot of home theaters in a living room setup especially. So we were watching movies like Twisters. I brought my daughter in and we were doing a demo and I asked her what her thoughts was. And after I got done with the demo, she's like, it makes me want to watch the movie again. So that was pretty cool to hear her expression of that. So now let's talk about the sound quality of the Theater Quad. So overall, really good presence. In my room, I've got a pretty big room, got 12-foot ceilings. It's a very open floor plan. I think these probably would do better in a smaller room and an enclosed room, but I never felt like these weren't enough for that size room. Now, with that said, it does come with a relatively small subwoofer. Now, full transparency, I'm used to big bass. I've got 4 18-inch subwoofers in my theater room, and so there's not many small subwoofers that are going to impress me. But what I will say is the small subwoofer that they sent with this system, it did provide good bass that you could hear, but just don't expect like this massive pounding bass that you're going to feel like tactile bass. As long as you go into it knowing it has its limitations, it's not going to dig super, super deep like a big subwoofer, a 12-inch or a 15-inch or even an 18-inch subwoofer. It's not that, but it's not designed to be that. This is one of those systems that's designed to be placed in a room and kind of disappear. This is for a customer that doesn't want big, massive speakers. It's taken me many years to be able to put something like these Martin Logans in my living room. My wife hates seeing speakers, so she much would prefer a small system like this to be just mounted on the wall, kind of out of sight, blending in with the decor. And so I think that's really where Sony was going for their target audience of the Theater Quad system. Now, this system does integrate with the Sony BRAVIA, and so I was able to turn on and off the center channel option to where it utilizes the center channel, or really it utilizes the speakers in the BRAVIA 9 as the center channel. I didn't really find that that made a massive difference, honestly. Probably the biggest reason is because the speakers on a TV typically are firing backwards. They're firing up against your front wall, and then that sound is having to radiate around the TV and then out to, where you're sitting. And so that's not really an ideal setup. Ideally, you want the speakers firing at you. You want the speakers having direct radiating, and they want to be firing directly where your ears are, not having to reflect around the TV. So it wasn't a big deal for me to turn that on and off. I don't think it changed that much. It wasn't like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely amazing. For what it was, these produced a great sound. Now, I prefer to have a dedicated center channel, not a TV speaker, not a phantom center where you're taking two stereo pair and you're basically just creating a fake center channel with imaging. I just like having a dedicated center channel. So I think it would have been cool to have 5 of these instead of 4. One thing I do like the fact is that these are just really great integration as far as the wireless. Typically in the past, when I've listened to wireless speakers, they're trash. I'll be honest with you. They're just not really great. This is a quality wireless system. Now with wireless, keep in mind, it's not truly wireless. You have a wire that needs to be connected to each one of these. That's the power cable. Yes, you don't have speaker cable, but you're just replacing a speaker cable with a power cable. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking of, man, I want to go with a wireless system. It's not truly wireless because you got to still get power to it. And if you want to make it really, really clean, you need to run that power through your wall, down your wall, and then bring it out and plug it into, a wall outlet. Now, because the subwoofer is relatively small, it's not going to dig super deep. It has good amount of bass, but you're not going to just get this massive tactile feel. There were times when I was listening to music, there were certain songs that I would play that it just produced like Queen Mary. The low frequencies that it produces there, as long as I was at moderate volume, it sounded fine. If I wanted to really crank the system, that particular song was too much for that little driver. And that's expected. Every speaker and every subwoofer is going to have limitations. You just have to figure out what those limitations are and make sure that whatever you're listening to, that you stay within that so that it always sounds clean and it always sounds good. But overall, if you're looking to upgrade from just your TV speakers, but you don't want to go with some massive towers, I think this is a good option for you. Probably much better than most sound bars that are out there on the market. So there's some other things that I really liked. Sony did a great job at just making this a simple solution. They made a simple design, they made a simple setup, and they made really simple installation. And so this is going to take the complexity out of having to have an AVR and then having your different sources and video switching and all this other stuff and all these different connections. This thing's super simple because they use eARC, and eARC is just enhanced audio return channel. In essence, what that means is you take a HDMI cable, connect it to the control box, to the eARC or ARC input on your TV, and then now whenever you're watching things like Hulu, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, things like that, that sound is going to come through that into the box, and then from the box it's going to be sent wirelessly to the speakers, which are then amplified. So by adding this system over your TV speakers, you're going to greatly enhance not only the dialogue and immersive sound, but also that low frequency impact that you get during like explosions and when you're watching things that just have big, deep, low frequencies. And one feature I really liked is a lot of times in our living room, we listen to music. And so as we're just working or just hanging out, we just like something kind of playing peacefully, not too crazy. And so being able to connect directly from my phone through AirPlay is super cool. So I can just pull up Spotify. I don't even have to turn on the system. Just pull up Spotify, tell it to connect to the theater quad, and then voila, we start playing music. And I can control all the music, even from in here in my office, increase the volume, change the song And then even with the app, I can power the whole system down at any time. Now, speaking of the app, Sony did another great job here. The app looks great. I never had it crash. I didn't have any hiccups with it. It did what I needed it to do. It just doesn't have a lot that you can do. But I like the fact that you can easily turn on and off the TV. You can adjust, if you have a Sony BRAVIA TV, you can easily switch through the different video profiles. With the sound system, you can adjust, of course, the volume. You can adjust the surround height, and you can also adjust the amount of bass. You can either crank it up a little bit or leave it at kind of in the middle, or even back it off if it's too much for your room. Now, speaking of the surrounds, that's probably one of the weaknesses of this system, at least in my room. I have really tall ceilings. So my room has got 12-foot ceilings. And so these little up-firing speakers right here, I never really heard them. So you're not going to, if you got a big room like that and you got high ceilings, it's just not going to provide this immersive atmos, this height area up here that's creating this bubble that you can get in like a dedicated theater room, or if you're using, in-ceiling speakers in your setup. I even bumped these up all the way to max, and for the most part, they were just kind of peaceful. Not much happening on there. Then every once in a while, I'd hear them kind of pop in, and come and go. And not that your surround speakers, you're always supposed to hear them, but I just get a completely different experience in my dedicated theater room. But again, it's nowhere near the cost of this. This is about $3,000 total. And I've got a whole lot more invested in that in my dedicated theater room. So that's really an unfair comparison. So let's talk about the price. So this unit retails for about $2,500 for the 4 speakers and the control box. You can typically find it for about $2,300. I'll link it down in the description. You can kind of check that out if you're interested in it. But it's about $2,300 for the system, but that doesn't include the subwoofer. And so I think that's a missed opportunity. I personally would not recommend this system without a subwoofer. Now, maybe Sony just felt that not everybody wants the big subwoofer. They might want the smaller one. I still think they should have included one, or at least just sell it as a package. This price with a small subwoofer, this price for the bigger subwoofer. I just don't see a whole lot of amazingness coming out of this without a subwoofer. But then again, I've been in this industry for a long time, and I'm really, really an advocate of having a quality center channel, also a quality subwoofer. Without a subwoofer, when you've got things like explosions, when you've got gunshots, anything that has impact, if you don't have a subwoofer, you're just missing out on just some really fun tactile experience. And so definitely make sure that you got a quality subwoofer. So I really wish that Sony would have just packaged this as one unit, all 4 speakers and a subwoofer for this price. But again, maybe there are some people that don't want the subwoofer. And speaking of the subwoofer, it's going to cost you about $600 for that little subwoofer. Again, that's kind of a lot of money for a really small subwoofer. But if you don't have the space, again, I think this is targeted for those in a very small setting, maybe in an apartment. I think this would be an amazing system, absolutely amazing system. But that small subwoofer, it's just not going to take up a lot of space. You can slide it under an end table, and it's really, really hidden. Now, earlier I mentioned the surround speakers felt just a little weak. I even enabled the 360 surround field, and then I turned that off, and that didn't seem to make a huge difference in my room. Again, this could be the fact that we really don't have sidewalls for the sound to kind of bounce and envelop you around you. We don't have a lower ceiling that would help create that bubble. So I think maybe in a smaller room, again, these might do much better. Now, speaking of subwoofers, one negative of this system is if you wanted more bass, you're just kind of stuck with it. There is no support for multiple subwoofers on this system. So you can either run it without subwoofer, or you can add one subwoofer, but you can't do dual or even quad subwoofers in this setup. So if you need more bass, this might not be the best solution for you. But overall, I've been really pleased. I've had a lot of fun with this system. And so if you're looking for a system that is super sleek, very minimal profile, doesn't take up a lot of space, has good sound, is going to be a significant improvement over just your TV speakers, and you want something that adds a little bit more bottom end so that you can feel the impact during movies, I think this is a great solution, but it's definitely on the pricey side. Now, if you're interested in the BRAVIA Theater Quad, I'll leave a link down in the description below to this system so you can check it out. Well, guys, I hope you have an incredible week. God bless, and I'll catch you in the next video.